Hello, this is going to be my review of the AEE Life Shadow budget-friendly action camera that I recently purchased on Amazon, and here it is with the underwater housing that was in the package. No micro SD memory card included, so just keep in mind that the micro SD card will be a separate purchase, but we do have this very cool underwater housing and some other accessories which I will not show here because this is just going to be a review. And here is the camera itself, the AEE Life Shadow Action Camera, dust-proof design. Very cool design. So really the main thing I want to talk about in this review is why I wouldn't take this camera on vacation. So that's a pretty strong statement from me because it's a little bit complicated, because if I do like this camera, but at the same time, I would not want to take it on vacation. It's very strange because I was 100% sure that this would be my favorite camera ever before I bought this, just because I own another camera from this company, AEE. It's called AEE Life Silver Action Camera, which is not shown here. So this one is has some seemingly higher resolution settings, and I thought, well, this one's obviously better. If I liked the other camera from this company, and this one has some higher specifications, well, of course, this one will be better. Unfortunately, there's some interesting things here going on, which I will explain. Which I will explain, and I will try to convey the reasons why, even though I really like this camera, at the same time I don't really like it. It's kind of complicated, this one. So it's actually not complicated. So the short answer of this is battery life. So can we solve this problem? Well, I like my reviews to be transparent, and I like the concept of buying a product is that it should work perfectly out of the box. Of course, you have to buy a micro SD memory card separately, but everything else should be working perfectly. And I would never say, oh, well, this camera would be great if you buy an extra battery. That's not the point. The point is we have to use what's included. If you bought an extra battery and it worked super well, and then I made a review saying, oh, well, if you buy this camera and if you buy an extra battery and you just buy this specific battery, then you replace it with the other battery that's included. No. I don't like that concept. Then why buy this product at all if you have to buy something else to go with it? There are many action cameras out there, and there's a lot that I have that I like more than this one because of battery life. So let's really talk about what is going on here. This camera has a cool design, cool underwater housing, which I've never used. But the fact that it's dust proof, it has 1080p 60 frames per second. It even has 4K 30 frames per second. And I really do find all these video settings very acceptable. I'm going to show you some test footage after this review, so if you'd like to just see the test footage right now, if you'd rather not listen to me talk, skip to the next part of this video to see some sample footage. Sample videos recorded with this camera at 1080p 60 frames per second and 4K resolution at 30 frames per second. I like it. I have no problem with the video quality. Even the photos are okay. They're actually quite acceptable for a budget-friendly action camera. Not going to replace your standalone camera or your smartphone camera, but the photos were definitely acceptable. I am okay with the video quality. I think it's fine. Might even be better than some of the other cheap action cameras I have. However, the battery life, let me explain. I had a full charge, and I know that because the light stopped blinking here. A full charge, and I was able to record for about 30 minutes when the battery was about to go almost to zero. So if I'm going to only be able to record for 30 minutes and I'm on vacation, let's say, or recording something, the battery life was almost done. It was like 1 bar left after 30 minutes. And that meant that at any moment it might just stop recording. If I'm really relying on this camera to record something for more than 30 minutes, then it makes me concerned that what if I'm in the middle of recording it, suddenly it runs out of battery, then I have nothing there. I have nothing left. And I don't think 30 minutes, again, this is just my device. I'm not telling you that all of these AEE Life Shadow devices have this limitation, but when I'm recording, and if I know I can only record for 30 minutes, I'm most certainly going to take a different camera and not this one. So regardless of how good the video quality is, even though I do, for the price, really like the video quality, regardless of how good the video quality is, I just cannot overlook the battery life. So that is really the summary of this review. I do like the video quality. It's not perfect. I mean, it's not amazing. I do have some cheap action cameras that I kind of like the video quality a little bit better. The video quality is very good, though, for the price, but I cannot overlook the battery life, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. One thing I will say about this camera is if you do decide to buy this camera, absolutely remember this. When you're charging this camera, when you plug it in, so the camera should be off. Turn off the camera, plug it in, the USB cable, USB cable to your computer or your desktop computer, laptop. Do not turn it on so that it will say USB connection. Only if you want to transfer files. If you have your camera plugged in, hold down the button and turn it on so that you can then transfer files. For file transfer purposes, you will need to turn it on so it says USB connection. It'll say right here. When you're done transferring your files, turn it off so that there's nothing on the screen, because this camera will get super hot when it's in file transfer mode. And I learned that the hard way. I was kind of, not the hard way, but I was scared because I had the camera on file transfer mode. I was like, what's the big deal? The screen is off anyways. So you plug it in, turn it on, hold down the button, and then now you're in file transfer mode. It'll say USB connection. You can transfer files back and forth to your computer. Turn it off after you're done transferring files, because this camera will get super hot, for me at least, while the camera is in file transfer mode. And then when you've turned it off and it doesn't say anything here while it's charging, it doesn't say USB connection, you're good. The camera will be nice and cool. Nothing will happen. But whew, just keep that in mind. For me, this morning I went to record for about 30 minutes and the battery life was almost done. Unfortunately, that keeps me from really taking this camera on vacation, because after 30 minutes there was like 1 bar left. I have some cameras that can record maybe an hour, 20 minutes, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. 30 minutes is just not enough for me. Even though I really like this device, I really like the actual video quality for the price. I can't overlook that. It's not acceptable if I'm carrying this around and it records for maybe 30, maybe 40 minutes and then stops. I will always go with the camera that records for a longer period of time, because I have some cameras that have very comparable quality, and I cannot choose this one if a camera has similar quality but records for a longer period of time. I will choose that camera over this camera. One other thing I wanted to mention is that the interface, I don't really like it. I think it's a little bit of a hassle for me. I don't really like the touchscreen. I mean, it definitely saves having some buttons here, so maybe it's more compact, but I wish there was a button here that said menu, like on the AE Life Shadow, so you have to swipe here to get to your menu, your settings, and then it's kind of scrolling through to change the settings. I don't really like it. It's just a lot of scrolling and changing resolution, things like that. A little bit of a hassle. So I don't really like the touchscreen, even though it sounds cool in theory. I don't really prefer the touchscreen. I'd rather have some buttons. Now, the other thing, which was kind of unfortunate, is if you have the camera in the underwater housing, I couldn't find a way to cycle between video mode and photo mode. So if you have the camera in the housing, I don't really know of a way to change this resolution setting to change to photo mode. So if you have a setting, like a video setting or a photo setting, and you put it in the underwater housing, because there's a touch screen, which you cannot access while it's in the underwater housing, you can't really change the settings. So you'd have to take the camera out, turn it on, go through the kind of the whole swiping thing process. I mean, the thing with the touchscreen is it really only works well if you really have enough of a screen size or the buttons are small enough that it really fits a lot of options on the screen. But there's not enough screen size to kind of to show all the settings. So you're constantly having to scroll and scroll and scroll, and it's just a lot of swiping. And I realized don't really like even changing settings on this camera because of the touchscreen, the way it works, the interface. Totally subjective, but I would rather use the some cameras that either have a better touchscreen or just regular buttons. Overall, I can overlook anything, the interface, I can overlook anything really except for the battery life. So unfortunately for me, that was just my experience. Again, I'm not going to tell you that, oh, well, your camera's going to have the same problem. It's just me. This is my device and this is my experience. I'm not going to buy another one to see if all cameras have that limitation that I was talking about with battery life. But for me, I could record maybe 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, but for me, that's just not enough. So even though I do like the video quality here, I wish that the battery lasts a little bit longer. And I'm not going to say that I don't know like what good battery life is, because like, honestly, like I don't have a high opinion of myself, but this is my 17th action camera, and this has the smallest lasting battery life of all of them. So I have 17 cameras, and this is the one that, very obviously for me, at least for me, didn't have great battery life. So a little bit unfortunate, but I'm glad I bought it anyways. I think the video quality is totally fine, 1080p 60 frames per second. For the view, I instead of wide angle, I choose narrow because I don't really like the wide angle view effect. Kind of distorts the video a little bit. So I chose that. The view, I chose narrow. That's the only setting I really changed. Thanks for watching this video. Have a nice day. This has been my review. A good quality camera, unfortunately not great battery life. And the setting I chose for the field of view or frame of view is narrow instead of wide angle. I did not choose medium. I did not choose wide angle. Next part of this video will be some sample videos recorded with this device. Sample footage with this AEE Life Shadow Action Camera. This has been my review. 4K video test at 30 frames per second with the AEE Life Shadow Action Camera. 4K video test at 30 frames per second. .4K video test, 30 frames per second. This is the camera that we're recording with. Don't know if you can see it. There it is, the AEE Life Shadow Action Camera. 4K video test, 30 frames per second. .4K video test, 30 frames per second. Recording with this camera, the AEE Life Shadow Action Camera. 4K video test, 30 frames per second. .4K video test, 30 frames per second. .1080p video test at 60 frames per second with the AEE Life Shadow Action Camera. .1080p video test, 60 frames per second. .1080p video test, 60 frames per second with the AEE Life Shadow Action Camera. Going to bring the camera over here. 1080p video test, 60 frames per second. This is the camera that we're recording with right here, the AEE Life Shadow. Just wanted to show you. 1080p video test, 60 frames per second. .1080p video test at 60 frames per second. 1080p video test, 60 frames per second. (1080p 60 frames per second) video test with the AEE Life Shadow action camera that you see right here. Purchased on Amazon recently. Budget friendly action camera with no image stabilization, but many video resolution settings, including 4K, 1080p, which is what you see here, and 720p at various numbers of frames per second. In this case, we have 1080p 60 frames per second. Thanks for watching this video. Have a nice day. This has been a 1080p 60 frames per second video test with the AEE Life Shadow budget friendly action camera. (1080p video test, 60 frames per second). 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 Video test, 60 frames per second. (1080p video test, 60 frames per second). 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 (1080p video test, 60 frames